Thank you everyone for joining today. Let's get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please put it in the chat and we'll answer them as time allows at the end of this presentation. Today at 108 Degrees Digital Marketing, we will be presenting omnichannel marketing, including email, SMS, and social media from maximum reach. Today led by Marianne Pfeiffer. Marianne is the founder of 108 Degrees, a certified women's business enterprise and women-owned small business with over 20 years of outstanding service to the business community, nonprofits, and educational institutions. She's also a MailChimp Pro partner and member of the Innovation Council with over 25 years of experience in email marketing and the author of Precision Email: 7 Lessons in Engagement Strategy. Today, Marianne leads our session as your marketing strategist, helping you plan your path and answering the digital marketing questions that will lead you to success. Marianne, it's all over to you.
Thank you, Lauren. So today we're talking about omni-channel marketing, and specifically we're talking about how you can use email with SMS and social media to have a much more thorough and more complete marketing program. So if you're here today, you probably already know why you want omni-channel marketing, but you might have to explain that to some other people in your organization. So we're going to take a minute and talk about why omni-channel is important for your campaigns. The fact is that we live in a multi-channel reality. Capital One did some surveys recently, and they said something like 73% of buyers engage across multiple channels before they make their buying decision. If you're in the consumer space, your consumers are looking at about 6 touch points in a typical purchase journey before they make their final checkout. Even if you're in the B2B space or as a nonprofit trying to seek donations, that's still relevant to you because what you're seeing here is that consumers aren't just in one channel. If you are in single channel or siloed marketing, you're going to miss most of your audience most of the time. And that's because people need to see you everywhere. You need to be where your customer or prospect is when they are there. And doing that through just one channel is really difficult and honestly kind of impossible today when we live in a multi-channel reality. But as you're thinking about omni-channel, I want you to think that email is your anchor. It is by far your strongest channel. We know that stat we've heard a million times before that email has a 36-to-1 ROI. No other channel, advertising, paid ads, social media, anything, SMS, none of it comes close to the ROI you see with email. However, you can't use email alone because, again, you're siloed. When you have email, you have your own list. You own that list. We've talked about this in past workshops when we've talked about zero-party data, first-party data, and what you can collect via email and leverage. You can't do that as well with other channels. Also, you don't own those channels. So you might have a page on a social media site, but the owner of that social media platform can take that page away from you at any time. Even with advertising, your ads can be shown or not shown. You can be outbid, but you own your list. You own what they see and when they see it. And you can control the messaging through that platform much more than you can through any other. So when we plan programs, when we think about multi-channel, omni-channel programs, we look at email as the connective tissue that makes every other channel work better in our program to get our message across. We talked a little bit before about just marketing in one area. We call that a silo, and silos have a cost. Now, you can do great things in any one channel, but at a certain cost. When you are not working on an omni-channel program, your marketing's disconnected. Your messaging can be fragmented. What your subscriber or your prospect sees in one channel may not match what they see in another. So thinking omni-channel and thinking about coordinated messaging really does create a better brand experience for your subscriber, for your prospect. Data from OmniSend tells us that campaigns that use 3 or more channels to send across their message see considerably higher purchase rates than single channel. This kind of takes us back to that data we've had since probably the late 1950s, the Don Draper days of marketing, where frequency and recency were big things, where we talked about how frequently someone sees your message and how recently they've seen your message determines their likelihood of choosing your brand and buying from you. That hasn't changed today. Frequency and recency still work. They just work differently when you're thinking omni-channel. They work in the digital channels like email, like social, like SMS. The other cost that we have to consider when it comes to marketing silos is duplicated effort. So here's the thing. You have an email marketer creating a message, you have a social media marketer creating a message, and maybe you have an SMS team that's working on a different message. If they're not sharing their work together, if they're not sharing their messaging and their goals, you're wasting time, you're wasting budget, and you're also missing those signals that give you a connected brand experience. Finally, one more stat I'm going to throw at you from OmniSend. Strong omnichannel brands retain 89% of customers compared to 33% for a weak one. So again, if you want to think about customer retention, remember, it's a lot less expensive to keep a customer than it is to find a new one. So if you really want to retain your customers, think about how you can use omnichannel to do that. All right, so there's your why. Now let's talk a little bit about building omnichannel campaigns, what it means, what it looks like, and some steps that you can take. I want you to think first about creating sort of your campaign command center where you're planning everything. And that planning should start with email. Okay, email is going to be, again, your anchor, the place where you can tell the most complete story, give the most complete instructions for what you want someone to do. So start with your email as the base and build outward from there. Think of email as the place where you're sending the message, the offer, the timeline. Everything's based from that, and every other channel works around that. Let those other channels amplify what you're doing in your email to get best results. So, omnichannel means synchronization. We want to synchronize our messaging. So, what does that look like? What that means is you're going to determine with your email your core message and your call to action, whether that's buy now, donate here, download this, whatever is your call to action. And make sure that you're adjusting the format, not the meaning. So when you say download now in email, makes perfect sense. But maybe in social media, you need to warm them up a little bit to get them to that download. You're still going to use that. You're just going to say it differently. Also think about SMS. Somebody might not want to download on their phone when they're getting an SMS message. So you're still going to want them to download. You're still going to want that core action, but maybe you're going to present it a little bit differently to make it more effective. Think of email as the place where you're telling the full story. Let me think about a nonprofit, for example. So a nonprofit is trying to help grant funding. And so they can tell the full story of Jane, the researcher whose grant was funded because of your donation and the great research she did and the great results that came about from that research. You can give a lot of detail in the email. You can use the email to send people to the website for downloads of Jane's research and what it's done. But email is a place where you can start that first conversation. Now, I can't tell Jane's whole story about her grant research in SMS. The space just isn't there for it. But SMS is a great little nudge that says, did you see the story about Jane and her great research and how your funding helped that? Check it out here. Social is a great visual hook. So this is the place where we can use video, we can use audio with video, we can use incredible images, storyboards, lots and lots of images that can build awareness, that can grow the list of people who are interested in supporting Jane's research or who have supported it in the past, and you can reach out to them. So you can synchronize this same story across the different channels to really get a much more effective result for your goal. Also think about here repurposing the content. So when we come up with this idea, it should generate 3 to 5 pieces of content that can be used cross-channel, whether that is a downloadable, some images, some text, whatever it is, repurpose that content. An example here would be your email subject line, which we have said if you were in our last workshop where we talked about storytelling with email, your subject line should be a hook. It should be something that draws people in. Well, that can be a great caption for social media. There's a lot that you can pull in your content from email that can be repurposed in your social media. You can take some of the key stats that you might be presenting in your email and put that in an SMS message. Even graphics, select graphics can be used in SMS as well. So think about how to repurpose the content from one channel to the other. So you can create an email calendar as a campaign planner, and that can help drive your social calendar, rather than sort of putting things out in social and then saying, well, we should send out an email about this, right? Let email drive what's going to happen in social, because you can control email better than you can control the social algorithm and when something is going to appear in their feed. Let me show you a little example of what this looks like from one of our own clients. So this is a company that we work with in the Boston area. They sell baked goods, and they were promoting Bialys in February. Now, being a New England-based company and the Patriots being in the Super Bowl, they really wanted to celebrate that. So we built a program around the Super Bowl. But of course, while we could plan for people to buy this product for Super Bowl Sunday as part of their meal, in terms of social media, we don't know exactly when it's going to show up. So while we do have some posts about the game day, we also reinforced the product messaging throughout the month, even after the Super Bowl had ended. You can also use SMS, so reminding people to place their order. So whereas the email might go out 4 or 5 days before the event, the SMS message can reinforce that just a day or two before to get those last orders in as people are really in the heat of their meal planning for the big party. All right. I want to talk now about how social and SMS can help amplify your email message, because again, the email is great, but it is enhanced when we can actually use SMS and social to spread that message better. So let's talk about what social does. And I know for a lot of people with social, you're thinking about, B2C, you're thinking about TikTok videos and Instagram and things like that. But social is about more than just some videos. Social media is, in terms of our marketing funnel, often the thing that creates the very first touch point, the brand awareness for your customer that email can then nurture in the funnel. So think about social as something people might see and maybe it registers, but it might not register until they get the email. But that doesn't mean it's not important. It's that frequency, recency. They've got to see it frequently so that the most recent occurrence will stand out in their mind. According to Sprout Social, 70% of LinkedIn users engage with brand content once a week. So when I say it's not just about B2C, it's not just about TikTok videos. Literally every social platform has the opportunity to present your brand and branded content. So in the B2B space, you can absolutely make use of social as part of your omnichannel planning. I'd like you to think about social with email as a place where you can acquire subscribers, where people can show interest in your products and your services, your topics, whatever it is. But social gives you the opportunity to build your list as well as build brand awareness. And social's not just about organic, right? You can also be using paid ads, and paid ads can be retargeted. So if you have engaged email subscribers and you want to boost some of those conversions, think about using ads to help enhance what you're doing in email. All right, now let's talk about SMS and how it's going to work with email. So I think this data came from Omnisend. SMS open rates are like phenomenal, right? In email, if we get a 40 to 50% open rate, we just feel like that email rocked, right? Because at the end of the day, you can have a very engaged list, but you're not going to hit everybody at exactly the right time to see your email. So if we get a 40 to 50% open rate, that's fantastic. However, SMS open rates, well over 90%. Some of that is because of how SMS is delivered. Some of it is just because that industry is so regulated that it's very easy for someone who is a poor sender to be struck from sending. So there are less people doing it, unlike email, which a lot of people can do. And it sort of takes a little bit longer for abuses to restrict you from being sent out. So SMS, more targeted, better open rates. Sender.net tells us that about 82% of consumers read a text within 5 minutes of receiving it. 5 minutes. I mean, when you send an email, you have pretty good timing. You kind of know what days of week and what times of day are most popular with your subscriber list if you've been sending for a while. But still, there's a variable in there of it could be any time from 5 minutes to 24 hours that most people would see your message. But SMS, they're going to see it within 5 minutes. So think about that from a timing perspective. What does that mean about how you can use it and where it makes sense? SMS is not going to be a replacement for your email campaigns. It can't. It just doesn't have the bandwidth to do that. But when you layer it on top of email, knowing about these stats, about the open rate, and in 5 minutes of getting it, it's what we call a speed layer. It's the thing that can reinforce that message that you just sent via email. So SMS, you can use it for the reminder, for the time-sensitive offer, for event follow-ups, anything where that last little nudge to get them over the edge is something that you need, and you need to do in a timely way. So now we're going to talk about a sample playbook and a way that you could be using omnichannel marketing with these 3 channels together. Send the email first, right? We can control the timing of email. Social, we don't know when something's going to show up in the feed. And SMS is a nudge, but doesn't have the full story. So use email with that story that you want to tell and that call to action, and send the email first. That's the start of your omnichannel campaign. Now you can use social messages in the hours and days after the email, because again, you can't control the algorithm. You don't know when your users are necessarily going to be seeing it. But if you've primed them with the email and now you're following up with the social messages, those social messages are much more likely to resonate. Now, as you get close to whatever is the urgency, whether it's buy now, download this, whatever, register here, use SMS to create that urgency. So a nice timing window can be 24 to 48 hours after the email, because we know typically most people who are going to open an email are going to open it in the first 24 hours. After that, the opens are very low and unlikely. So those 48 hours after are a great time to use SMS as that nudge. Send them back to the email for the full story, send them back to your website, or just use that call to action to make them recall what they received in their inbox earlier. It's very important that you send these in an intentional sequence. Do not just go, oh, I'll send SMS and email at the same time, click, okay? They need to work together and not in competition with each other. Also, a lot of SMS subscribers, if they get an email and an SMS from you at exactly the same time, are likely to unsubscribe from one or the other. You want SMS to be able to reinforce your message. You don't want it to be the reason why people stop getting your emails. I would be remiss if I didn't take a minute here and talk to you about SMS compliance. We talk a lot about email on this channel. We talk a lot about it in our workshops, but compliance for email and compliance from SMS are a little bit different. And SMS compliance is really, really vital to the success of your program. Just like email, you do have to have express consent with SMS, but where in email sometimes that implied consent can come from a back and forth transaction with a salesperson who says, well, I've been talking to this person for several weeks, so I know they want to get my emails. And most people will find that accepting. With SMS, you have to have a very clear opt-in. They have to check that box. They have to ask for it. It must be written down. If you do any SMS marketing before that and you are reported for spam, your account will be shut down. You always have to have an opt-out, a keyword like stop or cancel. Should you do this in email? Of course you should. But not every provider is going to force that on you. And so because of that, some people are a little bit lazy with their unsubscribes. You don't have that option with SMS. If you don't have an opt-out keyword, your account will be shut down. It's important to know that just because somebody said, I want to get your emails, and you have their phone number, does not mean they want to get your SMS messages. It is a separate consent. You need to treat it that way and make sure that they opt in for either or both. It's also important to note that geography may play a difference in what SMS compliance means for you. So work with your local experts, somebody who understands your platform and understands your area and understands what the rules are for compliance. You may have limits in when things can be sent, how many messages can be sent, or other various rules affected by your geography. So always work with an expert, whether that's your provider for SMS messaging or an agency expert with that experience. Platform options. So where do you go? What do you do? How do you choose what you're going to do? Well, my first piece of advice is if you can, find a provider that provides integrated email, SMS workflows, and has some social media options. Typically, social media schedulers, like really advanced social media schedulers that the professionals use, are not really built into most email systems. That's okay. It's really more important that your email and SMS are integrated together for reasons of permission and segmentation. But if you can also schedule a social media post that works with that, it is nice. It's a great feature to have. The platform that manages your email consent ideally also manages your SMS consent. So that way, you know, if people are very clearly opted into one or both, it makes segmentation a lot easier. But even if they are not, they are two separate systems, you want to make sure that you're sharing the data so that if you want to nudge everyone who received the email but didn't open it, and you want to send that segment an SMS nudge, you can clearly identify who that is in the platform. So some of the providers you want to look at, obviously MailChimp, we work with them a lot. You have email and SMS integrated together and the opportunity to schedule like one-off social posts, which can be great. Klaviyo, Attentive, HubSpot, these big providers, most of the people that are playing in the big spaces like that, those are going to be the ones you should look at because that's where you're going to have the most options and also the most flexibility to do what you want to do. All right. I want to take some time and talk about social proof because user-generated content, social proof, is really what makes a big difference in the success of an omni-channel campaign. Really in all campaigns, but especially in omni-channel, because you want to tell a story that can carry through every channel and get consistency throughout your campaigns. And social proof is not only a great way to do that from a storytelling perspective, but also a very convincing way for your audience to hear what you have to say. All right. Why do you need social proof? Because at the end of the day, buyers trust other buyers more than they trust brands. Listen, there's a reason why Amazon has star ratings. There's a reason why every major website you go to has star ratings for different products that you can buy. Because you can tell me that this is what your product does or what you think it does or what your service can do for me. But the other person who's sitting in my seat who's already used it is a much more reliable source. 49% of consumers say that reviews are one of the top 3 things that influences their buying decision. So if for no reason than that, it's going to help about half of the people that are looking to buy from you decide that they want to buy. We see in email that there's less hesitation and greater click-through rates when we have social proof. When a buyer or prospect is hearing from another person like them, they're much more interested in digging into that story than they are necessarily into your general content about your product or service. And about 93% of consumers do read reviews before making a purchase. So that's obviously in the consumer space, but it does play into B2B. I don't have a stat behind it, but I will tell you, I know very few B2B buyers who are not looking at reviews, who are not looking at case studies before they make a decision. Social proof is important to making that final buying decision. So when you're trying to get somebody from consideration into the purchase piece, that's really where social proof can come in. All right. One of the best pieces of social proof are customer testimonials. So you can pull these from a lot of different places. One of the easiest things to do is to grab ratings and written reviews from your social media and put that into your other campaigns, your Facebook stars, your Google reviews. If it's already out there, start repurposing it. We talked in our last workshop where we talked about storytelling in email about the challenge solution result format. This was the customer's challenge. This was the solution they came to, and these are the results that they had and your role in that. If you frame your customer testimonials with this kind of format, you'll get great results with your omnichannel marketing. You can tell the big story in email or even a downloadable from your website, but you have the opportunity to really help the prospect understand why they want to be in the finished state, the result state, through your brand. When you're using a testimonial, please make sure to use a call to action with it. You want to connect the story and what they love about it and why they want to be there to those next steps they should take. And again, in omnichannel, that call to action, those next steps, it should all be similar. The email, the social post or posts, and the SMS message should all work together to take them to that next step in the process. It is important to always get permission. I know sometimes we're in the frenzy of marketing. We just want to get it done, done, done. But the reality is that these people who are willing to give you these wonderful testimonials deserve the courtesy of knowing that their story is being used. Actually, they really kind of like it. It's a compliment. And consider providing thanks to them. So I'm in the New England area, so it's very frequent that we'll just send somebody a Dunkin' Donuts gift card and say, get some coffee on us. We really appreciate what you had to say. You shouldn't use that as a lure to get these testimonials, but certainly it's great to say thank you, especially if you're using them publicly. All right, so when we're thinking omni-channel, we're thinking about repurposing things, and visuals are a great thing to repurpose. So I'm going to tell you when it comes to photos, not that you shouldn't hire for photos, but when it comes to stock images, Try not to use those. Real photos are going to outperform stock every time when it comes to email. Your customer wants transparency. They want to see that you're real. And real photos, they give them context. They give them the reality of who you are as an organization. And you can still have stylized shoots, absolutely, but also include some genuine photos so that they see that transparency, that reality of who you are. Video testimonials are fantastic. We love them. We talked about in our last workshop, so please feel free to refer back to that, how you can use video and email. Essentially, the short version, make sure you're using an animated GIF preview with a play button on it and then link it to your hosted video. In social media, you can use the actual video. If you can't upload it to the platform, you can always link to it, but most platforms you can actually upload a video, which is fantastic to do, right? So you can take that full video that you're using in social and create an animated GIF that you're using in your email. And then you can repurpose that with a direct link to the video in your SMS. So you can use that video in a lot of different ways to get a lot of results from it. Always make sure in email that you're optimizing, and especially if you're optimizing, if you're going to send an image in SMS, which is fine. You can do an MMS message, which would have maybe that animated GIF clip from the video that you're using in your email, a smaller version of that. Always make sure you're optimizing that. In email, we say under 1 megabyte, 600 to 800 pixels wide minimum, descriptive alt text. In SMS, you want it to be as tiny as you can get away with and still have it look good. All right, next piece of social proof I want to talk about here are brand advocates. Brand advocates can really be the big difference in your program, in success, and honestly in lead generation as well. We have another workshop about lead generation. You can take a look at that and learn more about some of this there. But when you have someone who is a truly satisfied customer, we strongly encourage you ask for their review or their testimonial at that right moment, somewhere in that honeymoon period where they're just so thrilled and remembering you. If you go back a year later, they may not remember it so much and they have to kind of dig back. So find that right period in the customer journey, in the buyer's cycle, so that you can get that testimonial, so that you can leverage it for the next prospect that's coming through the chain. Also, if you're going to be doing omnichannel marketing and using social proof and user-generated content, you want to build an advocacy path in your email and SMS, and you can use automation for this. So what you want to do is you want to sort of find where is that sweet spot when you get that review and use that as the opportunity to follow up with someone and say, hey, thanks for those kind words. Really appreciate them. Is there any way? And push them through your brand advocacy program. Here's the thing about brand advocates. They're more excited about your brand than you are. And so what they give you in content, whether that's audio, video, written testimonial, case study, it generates the best organic content for your email and your social and your SMS. Okay. So once you start building this type of format where you're getting this user-generated content regularly, you can use it to create repeated campaigns on different topics, on different types of use cases that will help build omnichannel experience for all of your users. All right. I know this has been a lot. I've done a lot of talking. And I apologize, we're going to get through the rest of this. I want you to have an action plan because we don't go through all this to just say that was really nice and move on. We want to get some quick wins out of this. So here are your quick wins for this week. I want you to audit your last 3 campaigns. Did you or could you have used email, SMS, and social to tell one story? Look at something you sent and say, how could I have repurposed this? How could I have built a campaign around this one thing with these other channels? Learn from that experience so you can build the next one. Now, talk about building the next one. Look at what you have upcoming. See if there's anything upcoming that you can use that information and say, all right, here's this idea. How can we integrate other channels with it? Most people watching this day are probably already doing email. So it's really about leveraging SMS and social together with that email before you send that campaign to really get the most out of the omnichannel experience. And think about that user-generated content and the power of that in your omnichannel campaign. Find a testimonial. If you've been doing this for more than 15 minutes, you've got to have at least one satisfied customer, right? So find that testimonial, test it in the email. If you can, create versions that will work for SMS, for social, as you can based on what you have now, because we're going with what you already have in the pipeline. But at the 30-day mark, I want you to think ahead a little bit. I want you to take and create a little content calendar, use it for 30 days, and think cross-channel, think omni-channel, think what am I going to talk about and where else can I use it? How can I fit it into these other areas so that I can have better resonance of my message? Set up an email and SMS sequence for your most important automation. So I'm going to assume you have some kind of email already set up, some kind of automation. Maybe it's a welcome journey, maybe it's after a download. And let's try to leverage that with SMS. Maybe it's just asking people to sign up for your SMS. Maybe it's offering to deliver them something by SMS. Whatever it is, start using SMS with your email in automation so you can start to see those two working in together and seeing how it builds the opportunity and builds the experience for your users to interact with your brand. Finally, last thing I want you to do over the next 30 days, think about user-generated content and establishing a process for collecting those photos and testimonials we were talking about. If we want to fill these omni-channel campaigns with really juicy content, I need you to have something to draw from. So use the next 30 days to start establishing a process for that. All right, that's a lot to do in 30 days, I know. So I'm going to push out to 90 days for your next piece. But once you've been doing that and once you've had the chance to collect that, at the 90-day mark, what I really want you to be able to do is review the cross-channel data, anything that you've started to do omni-channel. Are you seeing better open click conversion rates, lead generation? What numbers look better to you? Are you seeing more people interacting with your brand? I want you to now really think about, you've probably at this point identified people who are potentially really good brand advocates, and start to think about how you would be able to interact with them to have a dedicated path of nurturing the next group. Understand who they are, where they came from. Now you're looking at them, you're identifying them. Figure out what that nurturing path looks like so that you can use that to nurture more brand advocates. This will help to feed your omni-channel campaign funnel because you will have really great, juicy content to use. Finally, I want you to take a look at your tech stack. If you've got email over here and SMS over there and no social to speak of or vice versa, or whatever, how can you maybe make that tech stack align better so that it works better for your organization and for your team? If you are a one-man show, you need it to be fast and simple. If you are a team with multiple people, how can you get people to coordinate better? What are you missing from your tech stack? Figure that out so that you can make a better, more informed choice about how you want to move forward with these programs. All right, I know that was a lot to learn already, but just in case it wasn't enough and you want to learn something more, we've got a few resources for you, some of that were cited in this exact presentation. So these all come from some, recognized industry sites that you've probably heard of before. There are plenty more out there, but a lot of these will give you stats and data and questions that you can start to ask yourself to build your next omnichannel campaign. And the next step can be hard. It might seem a little overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. So there is help available for you. So if you're ready to get started with omnichannel programs, but not quite ready to take it all on for yourself, you don't have to do this alone. Our team is ready to help. Visit our website and complete our discovery call form, or just shoot me back an email and tell me you want to schedule something. We will help you break down the silos and help you build a strategy that works for your organization. If you need help to carry it out for a little while, we can help you with that. Or if you just need some guidance on the strategy and planning, we're happy to help you with that as well. One strategy, every channel, real results. We'll get you there, one step at a time.
Thank you everyone for joining today. If you'd like to learn more about how to take your marketing to the next level, check out our YouTube channel with recordings from our past workshops and other highlights.